Testing. Testing.
patient. I can't stand the wait. When will I get my cut down? Who are you? I know by now that you'll arrive by the time I start waiting.
Hey guys, we're going to be getting started. Excellent. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Let's clap it up for yourselves. Yay! Thank you. This is very exciting. My name's Emma Willman, and I am hosting this fireside chat about astrology and NFTs. And I'm going to let Daniela Choca, who put all of this together, and Ophi introduce themselves. Let's start with Daniela.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out to the Platonic Gallery. My name's Daniela, and I used to be in asset management. I worked for 15 years in that space and then turned crypto trader back in 2019 and just found my way naturally to NFTs. So started trading them, started collecting them, and now I'm working with artists, helping them launch their careers and building partnerships with different companies to try to support charities through the NFT space.
By naturally, she means she's a Libra. So I'm Ophi, Ophira, but call me Ophi. Drop the syllable. Half of the Astro Twins. My twin sister and I are the astrologers for astrostyle.com and Elle Magazine. And I love using astrology to look at where the world is headed. Some of you may have our 2022 horoscope book where we write copious amounts of information about how the stars are shaping the world in the future and similar patterns from the past. So I think astrology and crypto and finance, they're all studies of patterns and cycles, and in case you're wondering what the hell they have in common. And I'm just, as a Sagittarius, love being part of anything new, emerging, and new conversations, because you gotta keep evolving. That's how it is. Otherwise, you're dead. So with that uplifting note, thanks for being here.
How did you guys meet each other? I don't think I asked that before.
We actually have a mutual friend who is very passionate about astrology, and I was working with the Divine Order of the Zodiac. That's one of the art projects that we're representing here, and reached out. He put me in contact with Ophi, and we were just talking about the project, and because it's obviously astrology related, I wanted to see if there was any interest in working together.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
so how we can better understand how it is astrology related, will you tell us more about what an NFT is? I don't even know what it stands for.
Well, let me just get an idea from the audience. Like, who here
Please.
knows what an NFT is? Raise your hand. Oh,
Well.
that's great, actually. That seems like a lot of people here. Well, I'm going to explain it just for the people who are watching on the live stream from a very fundamental perspective so that it's easy to understand. But it stands for non-fungible token. And often that's intimidating right off the bat, but this idea of something being non-fungible exists in life, has nothing to do with being crypto or not. And it just means about exchanging stuff. So if you have $1 and I have $1 and we switch, that's fungible. If you have 4 quarters and I have $1, we switch, that's fungible. If you have the Mona Lisa, there's nothing I have that I can give to you that's gonna be equal to the Mona Lisa. There's just one. And so this idea of something being non-fungible is you just can't exchange it for anything else that's equal to it. And so, movies, comedy, contracts, real estate, all these things are things that we talk about often when we talk about NFTs. The only difference is now we're tokenizing them. All that means is we're bringing them into crypto. We're putting them on the crypto internet. We'll call it the blockchain, right? There are different blockchains, but let's just say one blockchain. Uploading something like digital art makes it a token because you're assigning an ID to it. And now it lives in this place that has an audit trail. You can follow it everywhere. So if you have a Picasso and you want to authenticate that Picasso, it's going to cost you like $1 million. I mean, you're not going to be able to, there's a very good chance you could, but there are pieces of artwork that you might not ever be able to be entirely sure that it is what you think it is. On the blockchain, there's no problem. There's an identifier, and you're always going to be, it's automatic authentication. So really is a system of organizing information and things now. It's just part of the evolution of the way that we track things and transact. Does that make sense?
Have NFTs always been closely linked with crypto? Like, could they exist without crypto, or why did they go on that?
No, it's definitely a part of the evolution of crypto because it's everything that's on the blockchain is related to crypto, so it's a part of like a digital currency, digitizing everything else. The blockchains operate with a specific cryptocurrency.
So it's proving that the thing is really the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's authenticating. There's always a specific owner. You always know who that is. You always know where it's going. You can track it everywhere.
So it's just like continual backup that you guys trust infinitely. Like someone can't hack into it and start messing it up.
Well, you still have exposure to hacking. I mean, that's, you know, you need to make sure you're keeping all of your private information private. Someone can steal your wallet, and if you have your information available to them, then they can hack it from you. But it's
So let's
traceable.
take like a physical, like an IRL parallel. It's like if you have a physical wallet with money in it, right?
Yeah.
How is that a parallel? Is it someone steals your wallet out of your bag?
Yeah, it's really funny because I think it was Louis Vuitton that actually, or if not Louis Vuitton, like Fendi or somebody just designed a high-end designer bag that had a little section for your crypto wallet, which is the last thing you would ever want to do, is be like, and this is where I store all of my crypto. Don't take it. Like, I would never, no one ever does that. Like, you want to hide that. You don't want people to know it's on you. You want to like keep all, like when I went to the Miami Bitcoin conference, I like changed all my passwords and I like took everything off my phone, because sometimes people get targeted just for, you know, because people know that you're there for a conference. So yeah, you can still be hacked, but the system isn't being hacked. It's
Got
like
it.
you are. Yeah.
Where is it centralized out of?
Well, I mean, the thing is that you have computers all across the world
Right.
that are maintaining it. So it's not like one person can take it down, because it's a part of a community-led international sovereign project.
I guess like with Bitcoin, I'm always trying to intellectualize it as a physical thing, but I don't do that at all with astrology. With astrology, I like blindly believe and accept it as like a physical, metaphysical reality.
The sky is a blockchain.
And I would never even question if it could get hacked.
NASA is your crypto wallet.
Yeah. How's the intersection of astrology and NFTs been? Do you find it there's more people asking you about it that are related to NFTs than crypto in general?
Where they're related for me, I mean, there are people that follow every movement of the moon and the inner fast-moving planets to track if they should trade or buy. I don't do that. I don't have time to do that. What I think is really interesting are the larger trends, what we call the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. They move slowly from a year to 20 years to go through a cycle. So they shape trends in history and society. And what's cool about it is you can look at the last time. For example, Uranus, which rules technology, is in Taurus, the sign of money. From 2017, really 2018, it settled in till 2026. So I would put that together as an astrologer and say technology, computers, digital, that's Uranus, plus Taurus, money. Well, perhaps it's time for some digital, cashless, you know, a revolution in finance. What's interesting with astrology is I can say, when was Uranus last in Taurus? Oh, the 1930s and 40s. Well, the shopping cart was invented then. I think the first ATM, Social Security, like there were all these financial innovations and changes and upheavals then. So you can look back in order to look ahead, and the cycles repeat. So it's very interesting.
Very brave to be answering people's questions about astrology and money too. Did they like really hold you to it?
Yes. Luckily, we have someone on our team who is a licensed fiduciary too, because you know, I'm not. I went to art school.
Right.
Although maybe that helps with the NFT thing. But yes, it is a risk to make a prediction. It's true.
How did you know you had a knack for astrology?
What's that?
How did you know you had a
Oh,
knack for astrology?
When I realized that I could memorize every celebrity on TV's zodiac sign and every person I met, I don't know, it's really a sad story. When I realized I started to like guys and I needed an algorithm to understand them. So, if you want the truth.
Do you think XRP is going to be big? It's the only crypto I own. I need answers. I was going to hold on to it till 2026.
I think it'll have its moment, and I think it will come and go quickly.
Okay, thank you. I was sitting on that. Appreciate that.
She's the one to ask about that. Yeah.
What is astrology saying about NFTs now?
Well, I think that this is the year of the NFT, even if it, as Daniela has told me, goes, and as we know and track, it goes through waves and cycles. But on April 12th, we have something that hasn't happened since 1856, which is Jupiter, which is the global planet, and Neptune, which is a planet that rules art, are coming together in Pisces, which is a sign that they both ruler of the arts, the imagination, the ephemeral, and that's happening on April 12th. It's a rare moment, and I think that bodes very well for a revolution with NFTs. So
I should have
Just
planned
one
this
of many,
gallery
yeah.
around that date.
I know, exactly. Let's see what happens.
There are certain ones that we should buy?
That's the one.
Everything you see here in this
Yeah,
gallery.
there's one by Gossip
I have
Goblin
5
over there.
projects
What's
I
your
can
favorite?
recommend.
Yeah, exactly. Everything in this gallery is the answer, but I think, whether that means that NFTs are going to explode in value, what I do think will happen this year is that people will start to take them seriously. I mean, it's true. A lot of the world is still WTF as an NFT. But including myself to a certain degree, I was like, is this a really pretty Ponzi scheme or is it real? So, and with Jupiter and Pisces, who knows? But no, but I do think that people resist change and we fear what we don't understand. But the brave souls in this room and on this live stream and who are buying things know that loss aversion, costs more than taking a risk sometimes. Staying with what you know doesn't protect your financial future only. So that's what I
You can
believe.
really miss out on an opportunity. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you're very early right now if you're in NFTs. You hear articles about it all the time, but most people do not know what they are or how to access them. And the thing is that a lot of people think it's a fad, especially in the traditional art world. Here we are in the Chelsea Gallery District of Manhattan, and you have a lot of traditional galleries kind of turning their nose up because they think this is going to come and go and they don't want to be a part of it. But the thing is, they don't understand that it actually serves a very functional tool in our financial structure. It's not just a picture. It's like what is happening with this thing we call the metaverse, or what people are calling Web 3. So you have like Web 1, which is we had internet, we started emailing each other. Then you have Web 2, we have social media. Going onto Facebook, Instagram, it's controlled by a company, you talk to your friends there. Now we have an evolution of that, we call it Web 3 or the metaverse. And that basically is a place where you have community-led organization, and it's kind of like The Sims, you're kind of creating these worlds that you exist in, and the way we decorate those worlds are through NFTs. The way we transact in those worlds are NFTs. They're really just a transaction tool. The largest revenue generator right now for NFTs is not art. It's in-game purchases of Xbox. And you have to think about gamers and how young people, especially, are playing games constantly. This is so natural for them. We think like, oh, I want to go out and meet people. I don't want to be on, in digital real estate meeting people, but they're doing it already. That's what's happening as they're playing their games. So it's going to make a lot of sense if you can just imagine going to a concert. Here we are in New York, but there's a concert in Tokyo. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go on my computer. I'm gonna go to Decentraland or wherever it is, and you're gonna watch the show. You're gonna float around the space. You're gonna buy merchandise. Maybe you want a T-shirt. You buy it. It's an NFT that you then can have mailed to you. Not the NFT, but whatever it is you're buying. It's just a transaction tool, and commerce is building in the background. All the major corporations, they're here for it. And in 5 years, it's just going to be a different world. So anyone who says this is just a fad, they just haven't really done their research yet. And the way that this art is going to make sense in the future is it's going to decorate those spaces, right? It's not that you're going to have a digital screen in your home. It's not like your house has to be filled with this light. Can be if you want to, but that's one thing we're showing here is how a lot of people actually print their art to physical format. So you can have your NFT in that space, you can have it in your home in a more comfortable way. But the metaverse is gonna just be, it's the future.
So to dive in a little bit to that. So if you're a parent who's ever been hijacked by your child to spend $5 on Roblox so that they could buy their character an outfit, a very rare accessory, you have bought an NFT.
Yeah.
So to kind of give that metaphor. Interesting what you said about Web 1, 2, and 3. This is where astrology gets really interesting. So Pluto, which is the farthest planet, takes 12 to 20 years to go through each zodiac sign. And it kind of comes in like a wrecking ball and changes up everything and leaves everything evolved. So from 1995 to 2008, Pluto was in Sagittarius, which is a sign of publishing, which is when we had Web 1. And you know, I had a magazine at that time and was writing books, and print media had this entire, this thing called the internet, which was as much of a fad as an NFT to people at the time, came along, and all of a sudden, after publishers kind of poo-pooed it forever, they were like, well, we better start making digital versions of our magazines and books and get with this internet thing. So that was Web 1, and then Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 to 2024 brought us Web 2. Capricorn is a sign of businesses and corporations. Well, all of the data has gotten corporatized, right? So 2024 to 44 is going to be Pluto in Aquarius, which is about, power to the people and society and community, which is everything you just described with Web 3 and the metaverse. So having a second reality on your screen. My team, my company, we're all over the country and the world, and we've started working on this little software where we all meet in this space that we log into. It's better than Zoom, and we've started to decorate it. We have a $24,000 espresso machine that we could never afford in real life, but the NFT PNG of it is just as good. So that's where we're headed. We are headed to Web 3 and a digital second reality. So say the stars.
Does it change the if the media, the medium is the message? I think Marshall McLuhan said that. Does it change the message of the art that the medium is in this digital world? Do you feel like if there's certain things you would have seen in the in real life that you wouldn't, it's reverse, it would affect how you're interested in it versus when you see it in the Web 3? Does that make sense?
A lot of people feel like they wouldn't connect to art NFTs. It's digital. They think that it's kind of a fleeting thing, and you could sell it easily if you were trading it. And it's weird how you can get connected to them.
Oh, because porn. People want with porn. I feel connected to porn in lots of ways, and I'm not alone. It's a silent majority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not out of my mind. I'm not that's my girlfriend. But I do you know what I mean? If people.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't confuse it with my real relationship, but I definitely connect to the porn.
It's an alternative.
Yeah.
I was thinking when I sold my apartment, how I felt connected to that.
Yes. And that's a good example as well. But yeah.
Or if you have a painting, something that was passed down in your family or something, you feel connected to it. And I never thought that, when I bought my first NFT, I was thinking that would never happen. And my first NFTs were the pudgy penguins. And they were so cute. And when I sold one, I just oh my God, I didn't cry, but I felt it. It felt like a loss, it just, you get connected to them in this really weird way. So to answer your question, you kind of still build these attachments to these things in this metaverse world, because we live in our computers so much now, that we've kind of developed our connections to this private sector.
I mean, we're forming mirror neurons of attachment, right? Yeah, it doesn't require a person to be in front of you, does it? I don't know.
No, because think about how people date now. Think about how many feelings you've had about a person before even being in their space. Think about has anyone ever flirted on Twitter before?
Ever what?
Flirted on Twitter?
Flirted? Oh,
yeah. Literally this.
Probably.
I just liked your tweet. I literally did this, and then the person on the other side. They liked my tweet. Like, that's like, you can go back and forth. You start building a thing with each other, and all you're doing are these like weird things that translate to actual like emotions in your body. Like, you're releasing neurotransmitters, and it's like these weird, when you think about what's actually happening, it's so strange.
And it's even almost more personal in a way because it's something that is more interpreted through how you're viewing it, because the reality of what the other person's reaction isn't actually there in front of you.
Right.
So you can interpret what they like this, what does this mean to me, but
Yeah.
without actually having them there to ask, which is exciting, but it's also very like scary too, because it might just get so lonely.
It can get lonely. It also can get blown out of proportion. You know, like reading these signals. You know, but it's the way that people are communicating now. It's happening all the time. Yeah. So anyway, yes, all of these connections and feelings that we have are existing like without being like physical.
Have you felt pushback from the NFT community when, like, with the idea of you bringing it into like a physical art gallery space, where people are like, no, it's only supposed to be online?
No, there are definitely crypto purists who only ever want to be in like with the digital version of things, and there are obviously, like I was saying, with the galleries, there are traditional people in traditional art who don't want the physical. But I'd say most people have been really receptive to it and like are more interested in spreading the word and mass adoption, and like, because it is the future. This is an educational exercise, you know.
It's actually the perfect expression of Uranus and Taurus, the 7-8 year period we're in, because Uranus is virtual and Taurus is very sensual, physical, exactly. So we've got the 3D world mixing with the metaverse. So, and Taurus is associated with art, so is Pisces. So what you're doing here in this gallery is a perfect expression of the planets in 2022. Nice work.
Oh, thank you. They're doing their job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind the gallery was to like bridge the digital and physical worlds. It was to like bring people in and have these real life experiences so that we can connect with each other. You know, because we get so lost in our computers all the time, and I don't want that to kind of go away. It's my biggest fear with the direction things are going. So hopefully the planets are helping out with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in your opinion, why would someone want an NFT versus buying like a Bitcoin or a, you know, what would be the difference? What would be the advantage, disadvantage?
Well, there are like you come from two different perspectives. You can be a trader or a collector, right? So if you're a collector and you like the art, and that's the format the art comes in, and art for art's sake, you know, you might buy it. You might think that it's going to appreciate in time. Sometimes people buy art because they just like it, right? Mm-hmm. That can be one reason. And there are collectors in the space. But other people buy it because they're trading. And depending on like what blockchain you're on, Ethereum is the most common for NFTs. So we'll just use that as an example. They kind of act like a currency pair. And so what that means is like, you know, if you're buying Bitcoin, you want to buy it because you think it's going to go up versus the dollar. You think it's more valuable than the dollar. Holding dollar will keep you here. Bitcoin will bring you here. Same thing with NFTs and Ethereum. If Ethereum's kind of ranging just means like prices moving sideways, it's not going up or down, then it's stable. And so it's a good time to buy NFTs because people think NFTs will outperform Ethereum. So the value of an NFT will go up, and then you sell it and you'll have more Ethereum. If Ethereum's going like this, you want to hold Ethereum, right? So that's, you know, if you're a trader in that mentality, then that's how you would use them. It's both.
So if someone was an absolute beginner, which probably a lot of people watching this will be, and they're like, well, what's the first thing I should do? Like, should I find an artist that I like? Should I find what's trending? What do you recommend?
Great question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you have to decide what it means to you first. Like, because if you are buying it as a collector, then you buy it, you find art you like, right?
Well, let's say they're like, you know, here's an opportunity to create generational wealth when we thought those were all gone and there were no more. So I want it to be something that I connect to. You know, probably an empathic person would, but I also want it to gain value. So
Yeah.
where might they start?
Well, Twitter is if you're going to be in the crypto world at all, be on Twitter. I mean, crypto Twitter is the best place to gain information. You'll start following NFT influencers, crypto influencers. A lot of them provide really valuable information that will lead you to more information, and then you can kind of refine, you know, what you're receiving from there. In terms of like what you start to invest in, we talked about cycles and how important they are. NFTs aren't always profitable, and you have to understand neither is crypto. These are volatile sectors. They're still relatively new, so they have really quick ups and downs, and you need to be aware of that, and you need to not just jump in when things are euphoric. So euphoria is what happens when you hear people saying it's never going down, like when people are screaming from the mountaintops and it's already gone up 5x. That's a terrible time to enter any type of investment, and it's usually new people who enter at that time, and then the people who know what they're doing use you as their sell liquidity, and then they just take their profits and run everything back down. So just because something is down low doesn't mean it's not valuable. It might mean it's a great time to enter. So you kind of want to pay attention. It's hard to track NFT cycles because they're new. There's no cycle to look back on historically.
So you think having an investor's mentality, like a traditional investor mentality, is still good? Like some of the
Absolutely.
rules of the terrain.
If you're looking from this perspective of making generational wealth, which let me just say, in NFTs could be people can start with literally $100 and become millionaires. It happens. I mean, I'm not saying it'll happen to everyone. I'm not saying that this is your future if you get into NFTs, but a lot of people have made that dream come true.
But it won't happen if you stick your money in your mattress.
It's definitely not. And it's also, you have to be careful about holding something all the way up and all the way down too. Don't be afraid to sell if you're not really just holding it to be a collector. But like I said, if you're trying to find a good time, when ETH is kind of ranging, we're not afraid it's going to drop down drastically. That's probably a good time to start looking at NFTs.
Did you have a premonition about crypto in general when you were reading the charts, when you saw something was coming, and then when crypto came, were you oh, that's what it is? Or how did you envision?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be sort of cashless transactions, because I think it was, Amazon started you could check out with your cell phone, or the QR codes. So I mean, crypto was, has been around since the first Bitcoin was mined on January 3rd, 2009, right when Pluto went into Capricorn. So at the beginning, so it has been around. It was already there. But yeah, I mean, I did think it would get bigger and just all cashless in general. So, good question.
What's going to happen in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Well,
I'm freaking out, man.
Well, here's a story of what happened the last time Pluto went from Capricorn to Aquarius in the late 1700s. So there was a currency in the colonies called the Continental, and it was counterfeited. The printing press was running like crazy. It wasn't new, but it was pumping out these Continentals, and people were counterfeiting them. So the U.S. dollar was minted to prevent counterfeiting, because it was printed so much that it created crazy inflation, and the Continental became worthless. So now we see fiat, paper, whatever currency, and lots of inflation and all the same kind of problems, and the need for, also people in developing countries having access to their money through their mobile phones, and digital currency and blockchain as well. So we're seeing a need for money to be more accessible in that way. And, so yeah, we're going through a similar cycle in the next 5 years. So,
Are they taxing NFTs?
Oh yeah, everything. Okay. Sorry, yeah, everything is, any transaction is taxable. It's a taxable event. I know, it's funny. People will say oh, I sold my Bitcoin for Ethereum, so I don't get taxed on it, right? No. Because there's always a dollar equivalent value. There's always a profit, and that's always a taxable event. And you have long-term and short-term capital gains like you would with regular investments.
Where do they base it out of, though? Do they apply the long-term and short-term capital gains, based on what physical city you're in, or
No, it's your holding period.
Okay.
So if you have it for a year or longer, it's a long-term rate, and if it's under that, then it's short-term.
Got it.
God, it's just getting boring now.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I don't want to talk about taxes. That's the end of that.
It was like digging up a box of treasure in the backyard and running off to, no.
Something that just hit the tape today, the news though, is that the SEC is now looking into whether or not some NFTs will be considered securities. Kind of get around a lot of regulation by not being a security, and this is something people have been talking about and like worrying about, and it looks like they're looking into it.
Would that be good?
No.
Not at all.
No. No, it's never good to be a part of something and then retroactively find out that it's illegal, which is the way the SEC, that's how they operate. You had no idea this was against the law, and we didn't call it against the law, but we do now, and you're
Right.
in trouble. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Should we take any questions from the audience?
Yeah, let's take some.
This is a statement more than a question, but I think it would lead into a question. One of the things that I noticed in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict that's happening right now is that in the last week, both sides have invested deeply in cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So
you essentially see that blockchain and cryptocurrency democratizes.
Yeah.
you
It's one
can
of-
donate in Doge to Ukraine now.
Well, it's actually one of the beautiful things about it too, is the democratization. I mean, that's for artists, it's great because they can now program royalties on their contracts, and they can actually benefit from the future success of their work. That's a democratizing effect of it too.
So I guess my question for you, Daniela, is that one of the things my friend Lucinda, her art is up on the wall
Yeah.
behind me, and I came to see this, and then later that night, I ended up walking and back to the East Village where I live, and I walked into a private crypto club that you have to own a specific NFT to go into, and yeah, it was a wild experience. Like, we just happened upon it, and I was with my friend who's deep into the NFT world. He had the right T-shirts, so they let him in, even though we didn't own it.
Whoa.
No, it was a wild experience.
Life is a
private
video
clubs.
game now.
I got into this was a public open gallery, and then later that night I got into a private club that I wandered by, and what I noticed was that it seems to me that what's happening in the NFT world is they're essentially hacking the entire art world.
You mean in a negative way?
No, well, not in a negative way, but like what I saw was that I had in terms of being around a place that has nice people, good drinks, whatever, 6 to 9, typical art opening. This was a bunch of people who were essentially geeks, who were having a late night party, forming a certain kind of community that they may have been excluded from in the gallery art world. So I'm asking you, and the art was decidedly.
You already called them geeks, so.
No, but no,
definitely
no,
felt
It's not a bad
excluded.
thing, though.
geek is not. No,
Yeah.
for me, it's not a negative. Geek is not a negative. Like, the art it was terrible.
Click here. Get
So-
your NFT shirts here.
So the thing is, remember we were talking about how it doesn't have to be about art, like NFTs serve a functional tool. And the NFTs that are really successful currently have utility. And so what that means is you get something from them. By holding this NFT, you get a membership to a club. You get access, you can get merchandise, you can be a part of an art community. Like, there are all these different things people are doing with it. It could be anything, really. And a lot of people like this, a lot of people are, because art for art's sake is not in style at the moment in the NFT world. Some people will say, well, there's no utility, and then artists are like, the art is the utility, like the beauty it brings to you, and your space is the utility. But in any event, I don't think it's about the art, and in many cases, it isn't. Like, I'm actually part of a DAO, for example, and they haven't even decided what the art is for the tokens that make you a member. So it's kind of just like a logo temporarily, because it's not about that. I mean, we one day want it to be nice art, but it's actually about the community. And that's kind of part of the whole crypto revolution is, Satoshi Nakamoto created it to kind of say F you to the banking system and to the government. And now you have all of these peer-to-peer networks that are developing where communities get to make the decisions rather than it being, the gateholders being corporations and stuff, right? So these people get to like now make their own community. They get to feel accepted. They've like, created it, and they're using NFTs sort of as like the token that gives them the access. But also I'll make another comment with like the primary buyer of NFTs are like 30-year-old trader dudes who like grew up with Pokemon. And so like their taste, and you can see it reflected in a lot of like the popular projects, their taste isn't gonna be like the same quality of like, a lot of the artists that you probably like.
Having the same ugly sweater gets you into the club.
Well, I mean, I guess the question for you is that what I personally see is that there will be a more refined taste of NFT purchasers. And I was wondering, you curated this whole show, so I was wondering what you saw in the future about that, and what you, as an astrologer, I'm also an astrologer as well. I'm a Vedic astrologer, so I was wondering what you both had to say about that. You from the perspective of a curator and working with the gallery, and you from the perspective of somebody who's understanding the movements of the planets.
Well, it's happening. I mean, there are definitely groups dedicated to actually collecting art that they think is beautiful. And I'm a part of some of those DAOs. A DAO is basically like a crypto company, a decentralized autonomous organization. But basically, it's a community-led project, right, rather than a traditional corporation. So I'm a part of like a couple of DAOs that really care about the quality of art. They don't care about utility at all. So it's happening. They're out there. They're just not, at the moment, they're not profitable. But there are waves because everything has its sector. It has its cycle. It will come back. And I think in the future, when there's more mass adoption and people care more about NFTs because it's more a part of their lives, I think you'll definitely see people embracing it for the quality of art, for sure.
Good question. I see more mass adoption as we move into the second half of the decade, and more planets, more the outer planets go into air signs, which are about communication and community and sharing. I remember my first modem, the dial-up, where you had to plug in the phone line and find it in the wall and then wait for it to, make the noise. So NFTs kind of feel like that, like, so extra. Why is it so damn hard to get a piece of digital art, So like, why are there so many steps, And I think people are still baffled by the access to it, and so that's made mass adoption harder, and some people feel superior because they've crossed those thresholds and figured it out, while others are like, I don't know what to do. So I think we're moving in the direction of more access to technology, which will have pros and cons, as I'm sure you've experienced. So, and then there'll be the next NFT that people don't have access to. But for now, it's kind of fun that there's this new Pokemon video game out there that we can experience. Yeah. So, yeah.
I just gonna say, like, you said exactly like what I was gonna say earlier about kind of like the community aspect of the way the NFTs are going. And it's interesting that you used the word geek, because geeks kind of created the internet for other geeks. And they created basically all of the technology for other geeks. And at one time we all kind of thought that's not cool, but it eventually became something that all people enjoyed. So I think that beautiful thing of NFTs is the ability for geeks to enter in or buy into social communities very easily. That's been such a difficult thing for such a long time of just finding it kind of an easy and a practical way of joining communities. And so geeks invented the way to make it easily enterable. And I think that we're going to see it more, going that way in the future, that people, instead of like trying to enter, if they're introverted, certain communities, they'll just find the money and buy in, and then they're going to be brought into the community. And that's what we're going to see. And so, that's why any NFT that comes out right now, no matter how ridiculous it looks, if the community is strong forevermore, since these will be on the blockchain, then they will always have the ability to do some pretty crazy movement, whether that be 1x, 2x, 10x, whatever it be. And so you just look at Bored Ape Yacht Club. I mean, it went from very low to a crazy amount. And now you have celebrities that are buying in. Like, people want to be a part of these communities that are connected to very wealthy and powerful people. And so that's why the price continues to rise. And I think that just, maybe 90% of NFTs are going to go to zero. It's true. 90% of NFTs are going to go to zero, but 10% are going to do extremely well, and they're going to provide very exclusive communities forevermore. And, you just got to do your due diligence and find the right ones, I would say. But yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Lindsay.
Hi. So a little bit the ending of your comments was where my question was leading. So to sell an NFT, if I'm a creator, now does it become kind of like traditional art where you need to be part of certain, obviously a Basquiat, right? He was associated with many, many, many different networks that allowed him to be prominent. So is it the same for an NFT? Would it be like your Instagram, right? If you have, your impact is different if you have 1 million followers versus if you have 1,000. So does it become kind of like that where you would need to navigate even virtually or even physical spaces where those people are part of those communities to actually have eyes on your NFT?
Absolutely. Yeah, marketing is just as much a part of the NFT space as it is physical art world. People need to know your NFT exists in order to buy it, and then they have to know why it's worth buying. If it's not just for art's sake, then why do they think it's a smart investment? And I'd say that you have more opportunities now because you don't have to catch the eye of a famous gallery to like showcase your work. You have Twitter. I would say Instagram is a great place for your portfolio, but it is not a great place if you're trying to look for like real, adoption of your collection. And you definitely, like Eric, who was just speaking, he actually is the community organizer for the Divine Order of the Zodiac project, and he does an amazing job of building community, and that's another big part. So if you have a project and there are things that are ongoing with it, like from a utility perspective, you need to keep people aware of what's going on and give them a reason to like log into Discord and talk to everybody and be there. That's a big part of it as well. You'll see that like art blocks, for example, they do generative art, which is a really popular sector of the NFT art world. And there are people who are obsessed with it conceptually. And they have, they're curating, and so they have their Discord, and so it's not just one artist, it's a bunch of different artists who are showcased, but it's the collector community that's coming together. So you just have to be aware of what these outlets are and be a part of them. It takes like one retweet from an influencer, to get out there, so it's a lot easier than I think with the physical art world, but you still have to like, it's still a grind. Like, I'm not going to tell you, it takes no work.
I'm all in. I miss Web 2. So.
I miss it already. Yeah. It's interesting that, we're talking about, we're saying words like exclusive and community together. And, you as an astrologer can appreciate this too. So Pluto is about power, but Aquarius is about community and co-ownership. They're very, very much, I would say, opposite in their intent. So we'll see exclusivity and community. Like, I now finally belong, and I'm going to keep others out, or whatever. So we're going to be navigating that tension of like, you want to have your people that get you and your community around shared ideals, and you don't want it to be adopted always by the masses sometimes, or do you? So I think that's what we're going to be trying to figure, from a social point of view, something that'll be navigated as this world grows. Yeah.
I just wanted to
Thank you for that.
I appreciate you bringing up astrology because the type of astrology that I do is Vedic astrology,
Yes.
which I
you
imagine
said.
you're familiar with, and we
It's
don't
very
use.
different.
What would you say?
I said it's very different.
Yeah,
than
it's very
Western,
different.
yeah.
But I'm aware, like I understand, but we don't use the outer planets. And one of the things that we use are the nodes of the moon.
Yes,
And
which I do too,
We,
quite heavily, yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what you said about the paradox between exclusivity and community fits very much into the north node of the moon, the mythology of the north node of the moon, which we call Rahu. It's basically trying to be a part of a club that it's excluded from, but it also has to disguise itself. And a lot of what has happened over the last, there's two months left until it transits in the sidereal Vedic system.
Yeah.
A lot of it was basically this massive increase, these wild fluctuations of Bitcoin going up, Bitcoin going down, Bitcoin going up. And there's 2 months of volatility, of massive volatility left in the crypto sector. The North Node in Vedic astrology is it's in Cancer.
Oh, wow. Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, it's
All the way back?
It's
Yeah.
different. It's different. Yeah. Yeah.
She knows astrology. She's on Twitter. I know
Yeah.
she knows her stuff too.
Yeah. We can definitely talk. I don't want to hijack this.
No, it's a conversation.
Oh, I can let you know after. No, I will definitely let you know after this thing. But I like what you just said about the paradox of community and exclusivity fits so much into the personification of this force that is basically this malevolent, powerful force in the last year and a half that has 2 more months left to it.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah.
I love, the different systems of astrology, and everyone has their favorite or the one that they know. And I can only speak to the Western tropical astrology with the nodes, but I'm so glad you brought them up because in Western astrology, the North Node is kind of seen as where we're headed to as a society, and then the South Node is kind of what's below the surface, and they're always in opposite signs, so there's kind of a continuum. And in tropical astrology, on January 18th, the North Node moved into Taurus, and the South Node into Scorpio, and those are the money signs. So we are, for 18 months, transforming money, power, currency, our relationship to the material universe, objects, art, all Taurus things, as well as, Scorpio, kind of our unconscious motives around money, is, the shadow as well that it brings up.
And even like sanctioning Russia, by cutting off
Oh, yeah.
SWIFT and everything. Like
All of that.
Yeah.
All of that. So money, power, all of that. So I know it's fascinating. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And
My question kind of lies in, let me try to find it first. I'm interested in how more people gain access through this. I do feel like I'm seeing just different gatekeepers. And I'm curious to know kind of what your thoughts are from an astrological level. Like I know it's kind of, we're in the thick of it and we're kind of figuring it out, but I'm just curious to know what kind of aspects come up astrologically because I see different organizations, I think DAO, is that it?
DAO, yeah.
DAO, okay.
Yeah.
And I've been reading about some that have still pricey gatekeeping to allow access, to have benefits and stuff like that. And so I'm just kind of curious of where you see that going and shifting.
I mean, we still have Pluto and Capricorn for another, couple years. So people, the powers that be are not going to just be like, here, take some money and send it out into the wild. Let the people have it for once. So I think, any chance to regulate will be taken. It's pretty amazing that this even happened. It kind of slipped past their noses, but they're catching on, However, I think if you're willing to learn how to open a wallet and do whatever the steps are, it can, you know, it is accessible, and I think start somewhere. That's, I think, with any investing, starting somewhere, taking a risk, a measured, calculated risk. Know that a risk means that you may lose something. You may, just like with anything, you may mess up and learn from it. But if you don't ever try, then you won't enter that sphere. So don't let loss aversion and fear stop you from trying. But there's the good thing is that we do have enough community out in the world now where people actually want to help you too. You'll find your allies probably to help as well. I don't know if that answers your question, but she can answer it from a more NFT
Well,
point of view.
when you're saying gatekeepers, what are you referring to?
So I was reading about this, I guess, group called Friends with Benefits in LA, and or I guess they have a couple different locations. And when I was reading about the event that they did for the NFT holders, it's still pretty pricey to join in. It still seems like it's are being moderated by mostly white guys, and so I'm just curious about how some of this is translating. Like, I think ideally it gets decentralized, and maybe I'm just not aware of it, but I'm still seeing some of the same things kind of play out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they're community-led projects, and so the community can be whatever the community is. Often you don't know who's in a community. People hide behind avatars. I wouldn't say hide. Hide sounds like it's bad intentions, but I think people just are maintaining privacy, and often that's a good thing too, because they're not judged for whoever they are. But with Friends with Benefits, there's other ones too that are like giving you access to clubs, events, and like will even help you get into places. I bought a Friends with Benefits token to get into a party, and then I sold it afterward, so I got my money back. That's how some people do it. But I actually didn't know anything about who's behind it. You know, I just wanted to go to the party. I don't know if as far as like regulating who is in the community, I mean, it's kind of an anti-regulation system. You know, the idea is that the community decides. So you have the option to build your own community or find a different community. There are lots of communities. And hopefully, you know, I personally, like the communities that I'm a part of seem like wonderful and like embracing, and, you know, definitely the DOZ community is so welcoming to everybody.
But do you have to pay to play?
No, I mean, not at all. If you are a wallet holder and you have an NFT, then you're gonna have access to the utility that's offered. So like this project is partnering with tons of different artists that are, if you like hold a specific set of features in the NFT, like this is astrology NFT, if you look at the pictures, you can see there are different characteristics. Then like based on whatever characteristics they decided on for that reward, then holders of that will get free art from these other like amazing artists. It's a part of the utility. It's awesome. You know, it has nothing to do with who you are. You just have to be a collector. You know, that's your participation. You know, that's why you're a part of the community. So I think it's a very fair.
So let me make sure I understand what you said. So within, no, that's great. But within one of these NFTs, there are additional sort of like special limited edition add-on facets.
Absolutely, like that Leo you see there.
Yeah.
That was a gift to people who held the inauspicious Leo NFT. So that means that you have the Leo sign and then the Leo constellation. And if you had that, then that was your reward, which, you know, it's beautiful art.
And then you are limited edition holder of this, and
Exactly. Yeah.
and then you have a non-fungible T-shirt to get into an East Village bar or whatever.
I'll take the art.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Daniela, about artists that have been in the space before NFTs and then now are crossing over. I do, just as a way in, like I came to the opening on Friday and loved it. Had to go home and buy a Divine Order of the Zodiac.
I saw you on Twitter. Yeah.
Yes, and then come back and like that experience of accessing, you know, being able to access art in that way is new and amazing, and collecting it for variables, for uniqueness, is special to NFT arts. And so my question to you is, as you see artists start to think about expanding into the, beyond already their digital presence and collective, but going into NFT, it's not a copy paste. And so I'm curious, kind of like, what are some best practices for artists that are considering moving into the NFT space that aren't like organically coming up through it? And then if there's a sign that's more prone to just the copy, cut, paste, to tell them to do some best practices.
Who's most likely to steal your wallet? No.
And you're not saying like what's the best track for success. You're more if you want to stay true to your own art as an artist, right?
I'm also thinking about like people that have been existing in the space that already are established artists in other forms, and thinking about the NFT space.
Yeah.
And so really how to, and then also dropping it for like 5 ETH or 10 ETH. You're just like, no.
Well,
right.
yeah, depending on who their collector, if they have a collector base already, there might be people interested. That's obviously a barrier to entry for the average person. But if they are an established artist who's selling, art for the equivalent of that, then there probably are interested buyers. But if you are not at that level yet, then I think you need to do your research. You need to see what other artists are doing who, you can kind of consider at the same level of you. And pay attention to the market. Like entering the market when it's a bear market, you don't expect to sell a lot. Something like Uramumi, the Lonely Astronaut collection, he started off selling his at 0.01 ETH. And because it's very beautiful, like it caught the eye of an influencer who started tweeting about it, and immediately they were being sold for 2 ETH. Like it literally, the jump was just like, it went 0.01 to 0.5 to 2, and then it was like 275, and then, it like went wild. Started at 0.01 ETH, you know what I mean?
So you're suggesting that during a bear market, that if someone wants to just get it out there and get the buzz going, they should price it low so that people start sharing it and talking about it.
You're probably there's a better chance of people buying it if it's priced low. I always say bear markets are for building and bull markets are for selling. So I wouldn't say do nothing during a bear market. I think that's a great time to like brainstorm and work on your project and put it together, and then really focus on what it takes to kind of market it and push, take advantage of that euphoria that happens when the cycle comes.
My question is for Emma. So part of what drew me out tonight, I live in the East Village, and I saw that you were going to be here, and I had seen you at Revision at the comedy night.
I don't know. I do like 5 shows a night. I have no idea.
Oh, you know, exactly.
But I believe you.
No,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you do 5 shows a night, and you showed up, and I watched a little clip of yours, and I like stand-up comedy, and so I appreciated your comedy. I thought it was very good. So my question for you is, like, in the comedy space particularly, I remember I went to see Neil Brennan, the comedian, recently. He did a show. He was doing his whatever show, and he did a joke that Kamau Bell I had seen Kamau Bell do years before, and I actually sent him a direct message letting him know that, and then he explained how comedy works. But in terms of comedy, there's been lots of talk of like, oh, this person stole this joke from that person. So is there any idea, do you see any potential or any idea in the comedy world where you can NFT your joke?
I've never thought about that, but it's so, usually the rule of thumb is who did it on TV first. And then there is so much parallel thinking. Like I had a crowd work, anything above like 250,000 views is a viral video. So I had a video that was just like some stupid thing on TikTok. And I try not to read the comments, especially, like, say this video got 1 million views. I was reading the comments. It's not a healthy thing to do. And then it was based off of a crowd work thing. So someone said something, and I just said something back in that moment. Total, like, ad-lib crowd work. And then one of the comments was, you stole this from this comedian that I know.
Yeah.
And it was like bothered me so much because I was like, how would I have stolen this quick reaction of a word that I made up on the spot? It's also such a stupid observation on my end. Like, it's not, if it's something that's like low hanging fruit in the moment, like that's usually kind of like, someone can't own a quick observation. Like someone called a vape pen a smoky pen, and I said it's going to give you lungy cancer, and then I did a little like stupid thing about it. I can't own that observation. That was like a quick thing. But where it usually comes down to is the ownership is in who did it on what media first, how specific do they get? So they'll be like, say the premise is a broad premise. No one can own talking about dating, love, or their experience with it. But the more specific it gets, like with Kumail and Neil Brennan, like were they using like the exact same words and the punchlines, word for word?
It was the exact same words. It was Kamau Bell said, like he said something about something being having a black belt in white privilege, and it was
So that would be an observation lots of people could make. No offense to Kamau Bell, who
but like, yeah. So no, I totally appreciate your answer, because what you said is, but like, if you come up with some sort of joke, like there are jokes that people actually, like whatever, Dane Cook stole a bunch of jokes from Louis C.K., whatever.
Or who knows? I mean, so I was because I was watching something where it's like in the hours and hours and hours of comedy that they each did, it seems kind of insane that like there would have been like that overlap just there. You know, it's really tricky. But in that case, say two people did independently have the thought, whoever did it on the biggest TV medium first, they own that joke.
Gotcha.
That's like the rule of thumb. And then once you put it out on TV or like a widely distributed thing, then you need to retire it, and then you need to start like building from scratch. But where I'll look for it if it seems like someone really took something which now is just so insane, because kind of to tie it back to NFTs, like there's so many examples of like ownership for stuff. So someone could say, hey, I did that, and then people whip out their phones and be like, I just did this I reposted something from a podcast, and then someone reached out and was like, hey, I made that joke on a Netflix special that from an observation your friend made on a podcast. And I wanted to be like, well, they both kind of suck. Like it wasn't that unique of an observation. And I was surprised the person like came at me for that, or like said that they wanted me to like tell the person to take it down. So there is like a lot of weird, I guess like ego involved in these like things that can be like very similar, but I would say whoever, that's the kind of thing with like influencers too. Like if it can start being like the bigger person can get it out, but then if another person can start being like, hey, here's a consistent pattern of me doing this thing, which is like specific enough that you clearly took it, then people will do compilation videos, and it's like a big problem.
But it is an interesting question, because you're trying to say like who owns it once it's created as an NFT, because it like creates this sense of ownership, right? When
Whoever had it first, I would say.
But like when I say Emo Phillips, you have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
When I say Bobcat Goldthwait, you have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're Pee Wee Herman. Like you have these clear characters that people create that they could then, if you create a character, then you can NFT. Like there's other things that you can do besides a joke.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because like in the case of Dennis Leary and Bill Hicks, like lots of times I err on the side of being like, well, we can't, like there's still like different people and stuff, but then sometimes you'll look at, like I forget the name of the documentary, but there's just like a documentary of their friendship, and then we see where Dennis Leary circle back, and then you see the parallels in the material and the style and the essence, and then it based on like the blockchain of, I'm just putting that in quotes because I'm not exactly sure what a blockchain is exactly. But in like the block of chain of information, you would be able to be like, here's like specific points where Bill Hicks is doing this thing that then you see Dennis Leary doing. And it's like the more like markings there are for something, the more easily you can logically tie it back to make your case to be like, this isn't a coincidence that this person then did this. So I think that can be really empowering, but then it's also scary because so many people have access to viewing so many different things that they'll say, hey, you took this from this person. And it's like, I took up saying lungy cancer. Like, no, like then it becomes this like insane cycle of so many people with so much information and so much access to interact with people, which is
the shadow
exhausting.
side of social media, and it's being all connected. Everybody thinks they did everything first, but that is a case though for a blockchain. We used to we used to write something and put it in an envelope and mail it to the U.S. Copyright Office to prove that you had written it. Well, you can use the blockchain as an intellectual property copywriting, point of record, I suppose. So before you perform your next routine, put it, make an NFT of your joke and register it on the blockchain. I guess you
Yeah, and
could.
then you have to be really careful because you don't want to be like putting things out there too much too. So it's like on one sense you want to put something out there because then you can be like, hey, that's my joke. But then on the other sense you don't want to because then people come see you live and you're like, damn, you saw my jokes. So then, and once you've seen the joke, the element of surprise is gone. So this is a case where it's like you have to be less precious with it, but like once the element of surprise is gone, kind of messes up the joke. And maybe if it was like a really good joke, but like I feel like it'd be a real monster of a comedian to like think. Usually comedians like oscillate between like having really high self-esteem and low self-esteem. So I would be very curious to like see the. I'd be very interested in the individual that's like, it's another copywritten like banger to that degree that they're gonna like copyright each one.
Is it even worth it?
Right.
Or should you just come up with a better joke and get like a TV special?
I know
Right.
that NFTs are
Right.
becoming really interesting to comedians, though. There were a few people that spoke about it at the NFT conference last year. I don't know exactly how they're using it. I think you still are subject to copyright law, whatever it is. I don't think you get to just like create an NFT and then like get around what is traditional copyright law. But comedians are using NFTs. It's like a new thing. I don't know if you've come across it.
I haven't, but that's super interesting.
Yeah.
I know that people were doing some shows over the pandemic in not just over Zoom, but on I forget the name of it, but we're not Twitch.
How does a comedian
True
use-
Life, that's it.
How,
Yeah.
How do comedians use NFTs?
So they would have. Oh, sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
actually.
I'm just
I'm not actually
curious.
entirely sure what they're doing with
Yeah,
it. But I
what
mean,
are
you
they
can
doing?
you can put a movie. You can create a movie. You can create a reel. Like maybe if you are selling like a show, you can just sell it as an NFT. Because remember, it's just a form of it's a transaction, right?
Ophi. Yeah. Oh, it's comedy too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wit, yes.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's tricky, and then it's tricky like quantifying a thought. I guess it depends like which ways someone's like used it and expressed it, and to what degree their time investment was for it, and how they positioned it. Yeah, it is interesting, like the overlaps of where, when you start quantifying things financially, where it goes and grows too, because it can create opportunity also.
I think we have 2 more questions in the audience. We should
Thank you.
take those.
I just had a real quick question for Ophi and Daniela. It's a 2-part question. So the first question is, from an astrological perspective, was there anything special that happened in 1971 and today?
My mom got pregnant with me.
Oh, I was gonna
But
say.
other than that,
I was gonna say I didn't see anybody here that was born before that. My point is that 1971 was a very special year in terms of we went off of the gold standard and went to a fiat currency. And ever since then, none of us can really know what it was like before then, but my theory is that there wasn't a inflationary system that everything that we bought was going to go down no matter what, unless it was exclusive and desired. And so we've literally lived 51 years of this inflationary environment that everything that we bought was going to go down. But all of a sudden, there's this new invention called cryptocurrency. NFTs are valued in cryptocurrency. And so I think that the excitement is holding something that's not valued in a currency that can just be created as much as possible. And I think that that's where a lot of the excitement comes from that people are not totally aware of. And I was going to ask Ophi about the question about 1971 and what Daniela thinks about this excitement for holding something that has value that's not denominated in a dollar currency.
I have a couple thoughts of 1971, and we have 10 years worth of these books, by the way, our annual guides where we follow a lot of mundane and financial and other cycles. So we've written about it in the last 3 years, especially. But 1971, the South Node, as you were talking about, Zvi, was in Leo, which is associated with gold. And yeah, the gold standard, that was a big deal. Also, the first 2 years of every decade in Chinese astrology are metal years, so the years that end in 0 and 1. And we do see things happen with metal currency in those years. Remember the coin shortage of 2020 and 2021 that we had? So gold and silver often become, those kind of hard assets or the safe haven assets become important a lot during those parts of the decade. It would be interesting to trace 1980 and 81. I'd have to look. I haven't done an extensive study on those, but I do like to look at the elements of the years. So those are two astrological facets of that time.
So you want to know if I'm excited? Is that your question? I'm really excited about crypto.
My specific question is do you notice the excitement in the NFT community because there's this kind of hidden desire that humanity has had for a long time built up to own something that doesn't decrease in value based upon the government just creating money out of thin air?
I mean, I think that's crypto in general. I wouldn't say it's just NFTs. Yeah.
So I'm only been in the crypto market for 8 months. I've been in the
Okay.
NFT market for 7.5 months. So I really don't know what the difference is personally, but maybe you can talk about it, what it was like before and after, and maybe if there was any type of different feeling.
I've only been in crypto since 2019. I haven't been involved since the beginning, but I mean, immediately that's how I felt about it. I got really hooked on this concept of sovereignty, and just the disconnect from the government. And I like that it's a big FU to the government. I like that they're freaking out and that they're trying to figure out how they can stop it and they can't. So I mean, I find that very exciting. And when number go up, it's extra exciting. When a number go down, it's a little sad.
You want to look at the 16-year period from 2008 to 2024 of Pluto, the transformer being in Capricorn, which rules governments and the economic and financial systems. We're not done with the cycle yet, so we may see government-regulated digital currency like we just saw in China, the digital at the Olympics. So yeah, it ain't over yet. Not
They
that
can
I want
regulate it,
them
but they
to
can't
regulate it, but yeah. they can't
It's just
stop it.
if the U.S. regulates it, doesn't stop it.
No, it doesn't.
In fact, there are a lot of people from other countries who are like, I don't care what the U.S. does. It's this funny thing where Americans always think what they're doing is the most important thing, and other people, they're like, doesn't matter to me if you get regulated. I mean, it will obviously
will
impact
affect them.
the market, but they're not being regulated, And there are ways around it because it's sovereign. You didn't hear that from me.
I just had a quick comment on that. Actually, the government trying to regulate Facebook is, I feel, sped up the metaverse, actually. Right? Because they're like, oh, you can't understand Facebook? Wait till I show you this. And now they're like, oh, wait, what's going on? So, in a way, by trying to stop it, sometimes it accelerates it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
People become heated and they look for other options.
Sometimes the anticipation of something is so priceless too. I know, I'm not sure if this relates, but it made me think of it. In entertainment, when you get the most heat of something is before the project comes out. So 9 times out of 10, say you have the opportunity to get cast in something or whatever it is, it's before you sell something, it's before it comes out that you get the most amount of meetings and the most amount of buzz, and it's the most of a thing because people don't know. Once it's out, no one cares. Everything you do is a result of what you did 6 months before that, but the most excitement for that is before the thing has actually, no one wants to talk about the thing, they want to be part of the excitement of the potential of the thing, but that never ends because it always continues because I think it's part of the human condition to want to fucking feel something, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I think that you can't, it's there's just so many smoke machines creating these actual realities too. So it made me think of that when you said the excitement factor then being quantified. I think that people don't have to worry about that going anywhere because people want to be excited, but it's not necessarily excited for what you would think they would be excited about. It's the excitement of the potential of something seems to be the most like hard to grasp currency too.
Yeah, it's the
That
idea
makes
of
sense.
freedom.
Yeah, or what could it be? Like you don't want to sleep on something.
But if you're an investor, you have to be very aware of that feeling, because that's where you start making emotional decisions and not rational decisions with your money. And that's when you buy the top, or you hold it all the way down. And so sentiment is a really important thing to become aware of as you invest or trade.
It'd be
My
like
caveat.
buying, like being like, I'm going to buy stock in this movie because a big star's in it, but not doing any research on like who the director is or what the production or distribution is, and then you've just got like you've invested in like a piece of shit. I don't know if that connects at all,
Balanced
but
Libra approach is
Yeah.
good. But wait.
Well, I remember in the summer of 2020 when gold went to 2,000, and my uncle called me and he's like, "I don't think it's ever going down again." I was like, "Sell," and it went down right after that.
do you guys have any more questions? No?
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
out.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
And thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you guys.
accident that happened. Follow the dot. Coincidence makes sense only with you. You don't have to speak. I feel emotional landscapes. They pass on me. The riddle gets solved, and you push me up to this state of emergency. How beautiful to be state of emergency is where I want to be. All that no one sees, you see what's inside of me. Every nerve that hurts, you heal deep inside of me. Ooh, you don't have to speak. I feel emotional landscapes. They pass on me. A confused can. The riddle gets solved.